Well, so you said there's tariffs. What the fuck? Why? Oh, why
Tariffs
on
are a way for
Canada?
well, it's your country. Like America is tariffing
I
Canadian
know, but
lumber,
like,
and it
why? I'm
should be that
confused.
way. It's protectionism. You have to protect your own industries. And the problem is, America could do everything cheaper than Canada. And then Canada can come in and lowball because Canada has subsidized lumber. In America, each lumber industry is accountable to itself. As soon as you cross the border, Canadian tax dollars supplement their shortfalls. This enables them to actually use that tax money to become more competitive in the American marketplace by lowering wages, by not having to take from the profit of the lumber, they take from the taxpayer instead.
That's cheating. That's cheating in business.
That's exactly why. Remember when Donald
I
Trump
mean,
came
it's
in
smart, but
do
it's
you remember
bullshit.
NAFTA? Do you remember NAFTA?
Oh yeah, I remember
Remember
that.
why NAFTA got fucking taken out? Because Donald Trump said Canada kept trying to circumvent all the rules, which was true. And
Yeah,
all
it sounds
Canada and
Canada.
Mexico did was try to take advantage of the American goodwill in that free trade agreement. That's why NAFTA got taken out, is because of greedy Canadians and greedy Mexicans. Just wrong, man. And Trump wasn't wrong. All Canada ever did was try to find loopholes in it to maximize profits. And I get it. Canada has to do the best it can to survive in the world too. But when you're a parasite, you don't get to fucking call the shots. And Canada is a parasite on the American economy. It is. Like there's no
I
other way
used to
around. We don't
disagree
thrive in
until
industry. The only industry in Canada is in Quebec and Ontario, and they couldn't compete with America on its worst day. Like you guys can do everything cheaper than we can because you have industry, because you have infrastructure. Canada's
it's
so
crazy
spread
because
out. It's
America is kind of high cost at a point too, like for American citizens or businessmen and stuff. So you
will
saying
never
it's cheaper is a very big tell of how much different things are Canada to America. So that subsidizing really saves their ass on profit.
subsidizing is the only way Canada has a lot of industry. Almost
Yeah,
every
that sounds
industry for raw
terrible.
materials in Canada is subsidized to some extent. From dairy to mining to every natural resource we have is subsidized to some extent. And that's wrong. I shouldn't have to foot the bill for failing industry. I get it, creates jobs, gets us on the market. But at the same time, you can prop up failing businesses that have no right existing and then funneling tax dollars to keep something alive just for jobs. And I don't want to lose my job any more than anyone else
Yeah.
would. But there's ways to do things. And one way you could do things is not subsidizing so much because that just drives up the cost of business for everyone. And then
But that
other people
benefits
could afford to
you
open
and
their own
not them.
yeah, well, other people could afford to open their own businesses if there wasn't this constant subsidization to create you can't compete with a subsidized business either.
I agree with you. I had to
It's
throw that devil's
anyway,
advocate in
sorry, if I
there.
talk more about Canada and it's nonsense.
Oh, you're fine. This is
Just annoying.
banter I want. I was gonna ask. Well, I wasn't gonna ask. I was gonna say, I used to disagree with people talking about like bad about Canada. I always thought it was a good, nice place until 2020 and the internet spotlighting Justin Trudeau shenanigans. Then I started digging and reading and learning, talking to you. Holy fuck, what is going on with you guys?
Trudeau is
They're
just,
trying to fuck everybody, even people that support Trudeau. He's trying to fuck them. Not him, but he's influencing companies and other people to make the similar stupid ass decisions.
Trudeau is a cause and effect. He only happened because Canada's corrupt enough to let that faggot in the first place. This whole country's fucked.
Yeah, I've
You
learned a
can't
lot
just
about
point at
the
Trudeau and
mob
say
in
that's
Canada.
wrong. It's like there's lots wrong with Canada. And if Canada wasn't so fucked, he would have never gotten to this position of power in the first place. So everybody needs to look in the fucking mirror and realize that Canadian politicians don't know shit. Do you know they're the second highest paid politicians in the entire world, and Canada barely works? So why are we paying these people vast amounts of money to make a failing state? It's very, very frustrating.
I agree, and it sucks having to be a citizen through that. Like, I mean, we could go back and forth on why why your country sucks or why America sucks, but like, I like hearing about like my people, my homies, my friends, like how the government decisions affect them, what fucks them, because that's what people need to look at, like how it affects just the common person on the internet, because it's going to be a regular citizen.
I get punished for being successful. If I make more money, I get taxed
that's what I was kind
more
of getting
in
at.
the US. It's fucking disgusting. If I
And the
make
people
$1
that don't
million,
contribute to society has it easy. They get everything handed to them. If you don't contribute, you get more.
well, the problem is you make $1 million in Canada, you only get to keep 400,000 of it.
God damn, 60%
Yes,
off top.
You got all sorts of taxation right off the top because of.
That's not even that bad in America, and we're tax friendly.
I get taxed at 28% because I make over
Whoa!
$1,000 a year. And then on top of that, I got GST, PST. I have to pay BC so that I can even have a company because they've got you. They extort you that way.
Well, I pay my city to live in here and work outside the city, so I get that.
Well, just imagine having to pay someone so you can work. I have to pay
Yeah,
a dude. And the only reason I'm allowed to work in BC is if I pay them money. If I try to run my company without them, the people I work for have to foot my bill.
That's crazy.
Retarded, man. Yeah, so I work exclusively pretty much for my buddy. I'll work for anyone, but he keeps me busy enough I don't need to work for anyone else. And I didn't realize, so I flew under the radar for a couple years. And then just at the beginning of this year, they decided to do something new, I guess. And he had to pay $3,600 a month for me to work for him. Where if I
that is nuts. Myself,
that's half I haven't even got to the bad part. If I foot that same bill myself, it's $200 for me, because it's all proportional to what your company brings in. And here's the icing on the cake: they are $2 billion flush. You have $2 billion of Canadian business money.
What the fuck?
Because they fine you, and then they keep the fines, and they don't have a lot of overhead because they barely do anything. They just take your money. It's like insurance to work in BC. That's essentially what it is. You have to pay insurance to them to work, and it's the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard of, and it is as stupid as it sounds. And yeah, they're $2 billion flush. So of course all the employers want their fucking money back, and they're not giving it back. So why does this and it's not even a provincial company. They're an independent company with provincial backing, which means they can get away with
independent's basically local, right?
Sorry?
Independent just means local, right?
Independent means a BC company like mine. I'm independent. I run my company as a sole proprietor, and that's my
okay.
So like there are companies, just a small time company, but they control all of BC. They can shut your house down. I just went and put a furnace in a trailer. I never touched the gas meter, had nothing to do with it. I have to take pictures of it so they know where it is in relation to the piping, which is fine. That's part of the job. I send them this picture like normal. They now I have to go back to that house on my own dime and repaint all the gas pipe because it wasn't painted by the last person who installed it. And I have to take time out of my day to call the natural gas provider and get them to spin the reg because they installed it wrong. So this place has all the power to shut you down. Not only that, they don't have to do anything to fix or even help with what shut you down in the first place. And you don't get paid to fix any of it. It's ridiculous.
That sounds like something that like they were inspired by British people. That sounds so fucking British.
Well, we're a British country. Like, Canada isn't independent. We all are property of the king. The king controls Canada, and all you do is rent the land. Like, Canada doesn't even owe the land it's on. It's here by the king's grace. Did you know that unclaimed Canadian land is called Crown land? It's in the fucking name, Crown land. That means everything in Canada is owned by the king. It's disgusting, and I doubt any American can wrap their head around it because why the fuck would you want to?
I get it, but I'm not just every common person. But it's crazy that you bring up having to be taxed just for living in a place and working elsewhere or working there. Yeah. I just had to deal with a criminal case because I never filed city taxes. I never knew that was a thing. I knew there was state and feds. When I go to H&R Block, when I go to all these other tax things to file myself, and I've done that since I was 20.
Yep.
I've never seen a thing to do local. But I've also never paid the premium memberships or the premium package to any of those things. It's like, fuck you. I want my $300 and I want it now. Because I was working minimum wage. But last year, like November, I get a letter from the city. It's like my city is a suburb, but they call themselves a city. But it's just a suburb of a bigger city, if that makes sense.
No, I know exactly what you mean. They have the same.
It's like a suburb is just big enough and has enough money and influence to call itself its own city, but we are literally just the city of, a much bigger area. But anyways, I get the letter. I read it and it says like, hey, we are asking for you to file city taxes from like the past 6 years, and pretty much since I got sober. And that's fucking nuts to me. And I didn't know what the hell they were talking about. And it comes to find out, I learned that I have to pay the city I live in to be able to work, period. Doesn't matter where I work. Unless the company pays or sets aside money itself or pays for it, I got to do it myself. And all those years, I've worked a lot of jobs, but not all of them set aside money. I didn't know that. But when I went in to find out, like the first letter I got, and they told me this, I gotta do my taxes or give them my tax records, so they could tell me how much money I owe them. Even though they know I owe them money, they just want me to do the work, so I'm aware of how much I owe them. Basically, that's how it sounds.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous to me. So I left, and I was talking to my dad, and I never dealt with this before, and he's like, fuck them. What are they going to do? They're just going to garnish you, and it's not going to be anything more than a couple $100. He said, fuck them. He goes, I've done it before. He's like, I'm probably going to do it again this year. They're probably going to get me. And I followed that advice. So this happened November, December, January, February, they reach out to me. They send me a letter, and it's like what I owe them. What they I guess I gave them enough information where they could track down a couple of the years, and they said I owed them like $50 or something. But I read that letter, and I'm like, all right, garnish it. And I threw the paper down. Well, comes to find out, a month ago, I get a letter saying, hey, 2 months ago. 2 months ago, I get a letter saying, hey, you got to be here with it on this day in a week for criminal court. It's basically tax evasion. It's local, but it's tax evasion. That's basically what it was. And I went and I found out that they don't care how much money I owe, even if it's $10, they're coming for it. And I found out they usually do that in a tax year. Like, not tax year, an election year.
Yep.
But yeah, I as I was going through this, I was learning about all the taxes that I got to pay. And I found out I got to pay to work in the city. I also got to pay to work outside the city. Unless the company that sells pays. How to file city taxes, at least from what I understood, it's not H&R Block or anything. Unless I pay the premium thing, the premium package, I literally have to file it like on a separate website or take it to a local place. Like, I have to go out of my way for this, but can do state and feds online. So I'm just not going to fucking file.
Yeah, that's exactly what I have. You have to pay to play. That's what it is.
But you bringing up taxes and saying all that, it's like, I deal with some of that, not on the scale you do. Because I only have to pay $150 total for 5 years. So I worked a lot of jobs because I was just getting sober and, dealing with a lot of emotion. So when something got too much, I would leave. But goddamn, this tax shit sucks. I don't get it. It's stupid. I get. Well, no, I'm saying like it sucks that it exists. Not the subject. I like bitching about stuff, but it's like instead of just taxing me for working in the city, which I would get, it's like I live here. No, I would get if they tax me to work outside the city. I don't know, one or the other, working in or working out. I get that, but. There's half the taxes that we're given in America. They're really small compared to you. Not as many as you, but it still happens, and it pisses me off. And to find out you have to deal with double that but the same shit is just aggravating. That governments.
I'm about to tell you one of the most. Let me tell you the most frustrating tax I've had to deal with.
Oh, bring it, buddy. Let's do it.
So okay, when you go to sell a vehicle.
Oh no.
So you buy the vehicle, you get taxed on the original cost of the vehicle, right? You've paid your tax for that new car cost when you bought it. I just recently bought a new vehicle. I'm going to sell my old truck to Rightful, or Shaw, as people know. I'm going to sell my old truck. In BC, you used to be able to sell someone something for $1. You could just pay it for $1. I didn't even want to charge him for it. The truck's not in the best condition, but it'll get.
In America, you could do $1 and avoid a lot of taxes and shit. People do that all the time.
So they got rid of that. So now the minimum that the truck is valued when I go to sell it again, so they can tax me.
You pay like 50% of it?
No, they're going to tax me again. The value of the vehicle matters to sell it privately to another person. So I have sold him my truck. It's an old 2009. When I go to do it, I'm going to sell it to him for $2,000. I wanted to give it to him for nothing, but he's stubborn. So I just agreed on the lowest value.
Hey, that's a good friend, though.
So So last time I sold a vehicle to a friend, we were able to do it for a minimum of $2,000, and then the $2,000 is what the insurance company sees as the minimum amount it's worth. In the time since I've done that, now what they do is they'll tax you on the sale of a used vehicle based on its blue book price. So because I had a fancy fully loaded '09,
Wait,
they're
off
going
of
to
Blue
tax
Book
him
is
at a
not
rate
always
just if I
accurate.
sold it to him for $3,000. So he has to pay a percentage of whatever $3,000 is to be able to insure that car, so that, or that truck, so that he can be able to drive it. So they are technically taxing him on an arbitrary number. It's arbitrary because the Blue Book is supposed to account for engine and what works and what doesn't.
Not
If
every
if everything was
vehicle.
ideal, but because half the shit doesn't work in it,
Yeah, I was gonna say it has
it's
to be tip
valued at
top
3 grand.
shape, right?
Yeah,
They're
so they're still
valuing it at
valuing
tip
it at
top
3 grand.
shape.
So it's just a money grab on an already taxed and available.
Like, I
They've
have
also
no
gotten the
engine
tax from the
still.
gas on it. They've gotten the tax from the insurance on it. So yeah, that's the most
God
frustrating
damn.
tax, is taxing my private sales.
I'm getting
Technically,
mad.
if I were to sell one of my Warhammer armies for more than $500, the federal government would want a cut of what I made on that
That
private
is
sale.
fucking nuts for Warhammer.
For anything, any sort of income you have over a certain benchmark related to your province or what you do,
I
they
guess it
want a
stops
cut.
money
Even if you
laundering.
had a fucking garage sale and you pulled in a G, they would want their taxes on your private sales on your garage sale.
So
Canada
I
is
imagine
fucked.
most of the country is breaking a lot of laws, at least at a certain point, for certain
They,
for
sh-
a common scenario.
they shut down
Based
kids'
on what
ice
I'm
cream
living.
stands nowadays because they
Say
don't meet
what?
federal code. Oh yeah, I saw a story. Two kids just wanted to sell some ice cream to make some dough because everyone
And
else
they
was
didn't
doing
get the
lemonade.
license and pay the taxes.
And they were supposed to get a license from the health unit because what they're
What the
selling is
fuck?
technically a health code violation. They shut down two young men, two 11-year-old young men, or young children, I
That's
guess.
when you just say,
But yeah,
fuck
shut
it,
them
sell
down for
drugs.
wanting to make a business that was different than everyone else's. And the lemonade stands don't fall within the health code violations, so they're allowed to go. But I've also read stuff in Canada about lemonade stands getting shut down because they don't have business's license. Like, it's fucked, man. Just makes you want to, yeah, do things that get your YouTube channel shut down.
I am actually frustrated and a little bit annoyed.
Yeah.
That is wild, dude. If I see, I had neighbors like as you could tell, like from the stories I told you, like I didn't grow up in the hood, but I grew up like on the border of the hood.
Yeah.
So I was in like you're lower class, but you're not low enough. But so like I used to try to sell stuff like that. I would do snacks, foods, and I'd have old crotchety neighbors. I guess they're called Karens now, or boomers, whatever you want to call it. Called the cops on me. Every neighborhood I went to, they would call the cops and say, like they would always say drug dealer until the cop comes up and sees that I'm a 10 or 11-year-old. Then I got to a certain point where I got so fucking mad. I went to a neighborhood that they always called me in, and was just standing on the block and looking at every young person that drove by. I said, "Hey, I got drugs. You want to buy?" Like, and I made like $50. But I got so mad I went to that neighborhood and started selling drugs as a young teenager just because they kept calling on me. I wasn't allowed to hustle legally, so yeah. That's not an excuse, but it's just fucking police being assholes. But that's just crazy that your government does that, and it's not just police being called. Like for me,
Greed.
yeah, it's
Corruption and greed.
fucking nuts, dude.
All right. So anyway, what do you want to talk about next? That's not.
Shit, I was
fucking
just
tax
catching up,
related.
and this is exactly the kind of catch up I was talking about. Because I found out you finished your job, and I know you've
I'm
been
just
working
fucking
on that.
jacked. I just
Yeah.
wish I was making as much. I was slated to make high five figures, like half of what I bring in a year is what I was slated.
Can't
on
agree,
for
my
a
friend.
job. I'm happy. I'm also happy I didn't make so much though, because it would push me into the 28
Yeah,
tax bracket instead of 26 or whatever the highest tax bracket in
dude.
Canada is now.
Let me tell you.
And it's not worth it.
Sorry, you just reminded me of when I was working part time. I was making like $500 a week. I remember for a month or two, I was working overtime, but I was making minimum wage. So it was like $7.25 or it was mid $7. That's not a lot. This is like 10 years ago. But dude, I remember my boss was like, "Hey, you want to clock out early today?" She was like, "You want to be careful so you don't make too much on your check, or you'll be taxed too much because you'll just be making the next bracket."
She gets
Like
it.
I didn't know what she was talking about. I didn't understand tax. No one teaches taxes in America. You learn through fucking up, or you get lucky and have a family that didn't come from the streets.
Same in Canada. Same in Canada. We never talked about this shit in high school. And if
Oh,
we
so
did, it was not a personal thing. It was, this is how taxes work. And then they throw a bunch of equations at you.
yeah,
So, yeah.
well, I didn't clock out early. I worked the full schedule. Like it was like 2 hours beyond what like from when she offered to clock me out. And plus I liked working. I had a girlfriend I was trying to avoid, and I was too young and immature to dump her the right way. I was like senior year in high school basically, and I was cheating on her. I was doing, that's beyond.
Grown men that do that.
Yeah. But I remember when I got my check, I looked and I had it was almost like I did not work the overtime day, the 2 overtime days, and they were like full-time shifts, 10 hours. So it's 20 hours, and that got taxed completely because after that I got so fucking mad, and I was like, all right, if I work a job, I'm either going to stay in the middle of a tax bracket and work no OT, or I gotta work a game where I work OT 1 week and get, you know what I mean? Like I'd have to actually get down and break it down to a science. Eventually I got a job where that tax bracket shit don't matter. I'm living comfortably, really well actually. But working minimum wage jobs at the time when we're just coming out of a recession in America, I'm in the Midwest, so like I'm in the middle of like a suburban / projects, just like crossing into the projects. So every job there was for the dumbest dummies. I had to bust my ass to become a manager. But that tax shit hits you hard when you're working paycheck to paycheck or can't even live off a paycheck. Well, yeah, we can stop talking taxes now. But it's an interesting topic.
So you want to talk gaming next or King Cobra?
Oh shit, what you been up to? What you guys been up to?
Well, we're doing a Wild West campaign right now where I get to play. Super duper amounts of fun. And we've got 3 more sessions because basically,
let me turn the recording.
The one guy was.
I actually want to record the gaming